Also, there's a couple of really funny editorials, essays in that book about time and the idea that the woke have this crazy idea that, people who lived 500 years ago really should have known better.
Yeah.
They have this magic moral time machine where they imagine what they would be doing in 1758, and it's always better than...
And it wouldn't have been using the term master bedroom.
No, that's another thing, yes.
Right?
And again, that's another point I'm always trying to make, is that the difference between old school liberals like me and the woke is things like that. People, I think, have this idea that wokeness is an extension of liberalism, and it very often is something that goes so far, it actually turns around and becomes the opposite.
Yes.
Bill Maher sat down with Megyn Kelly for what seemed like a routine chat, but once the topic of woke culture hit the table, all bets were off. The air crackled like the 4th of July. Sparks flew, tones sharpened, and suddenly it wasn't a conversation, it was a cultural showdown. Maher didn't hold back, claiming woke culture isn't an extension of liberalism but a brand new radical ideology. Watching him publicly separate himself from the fringe left is both fascinating and shocking. Buckle up, this one's about to get fiery.
The problem with wokeness is nobody ever gets canceled for being too woke. That's how you wind up with men can get pregnant.
Yeah.
Because you can say the most ridiculous thing, and because no one wants to be the one who's called out on Twitter, they'll be like, "Oh, sure, men pregnant."
Sure.
I've always said that. I saw a dude who was glowing today. It's just so ridiculous what you can get away with saying, and just the intimidation factor.
Maher is now calling out his own side, the liberals, who whisper their frustrations behind closed doors but won't dare say them out loud. He believes countless leftists secretly agree that woke ideology has gone off the rails, but fear keeps them silent. That silence, he argues, is part of the disease. Maher warns that if people don't start speaking up, fear-driven conformity will destroy the foundation of liberalism itself. To him, this isn't a partisan issue, it's a fight for the soul of society. Stay quiet too long, and reason disappears entirely.
Well, you don't seem like someone who's ever felt that. Have you managed to escape
Felt
ever
what?
Afraid of blowback from your own side?
Well, I mean, come on, I've been on 31 years. It comes with the territory every week. When people say to me on Saturday, "How'd the show go last night?" I'd say, if I'm not canceled today, it went great. I mean, they're always looking to take you down, and the knives are always out. But, I feel like at this point, after 31 years, if they wind up getting me, okay, I had a pretty good run.
That's right.
And also, I think there's just a lot of people who have my back, and they appreciate what I do, and they appreciate me having that bond with my audience, that I don't pull a punch, and I never will. And it's made me, lose some audience. That's true. I say it in the introduction of the book. I say, I have lost some people, and I don't miss them. Those are the more woke people.
Maher's taken hit after hit from his own camp. Yet he's still standing strong. The man's weathered years of backlash without ever folding. Whether you love him or loathe him, you've got to respect that kind of backbone. His critics have shouted, mocked, and canceled, but he keeps talking. In an age where most tiptoe around outrage, Maher's defiance feels almost revolutionary. His courage to call out hypocrisy on the left is rare, raw, and refreshingly real.
But the left, yes, went off the deep end also, in their own way. And so what I always tell people who are Democrats and liberals is, you don't have to lecture me about Donald Trump. I'm the one who was sounding the alarm bells before anybody. But I also get why people vote for him. I absolutely do. Because the stuff that, for example, you just said is in the swimming pool, and the stuff that is threatening to people that comes from the left is so much more in their everyday life. It's not vague. Like, to most people, what's Trump and democracy? It's a vague thought. And Ukraine, that's very far away. Was it impeachable? Who knows? But I know about my kid coming home from school and saying, well, they're telling me I can't tell you.
Yeah.
That's exactly what resonates with so many. Maher's anger makes sense. He's outraged by the push for biological men in women's spaces, calling it a blatant violation of common sense. What infuriates him more are schools encouraging kids to make life-altering gender choices behind parents' backs, To him, that's not compassion, that's chaos, disguised as kindness. His message is simple but powerful. When ideology replaces biology and reason, society loses its balance. And no amount of backlash will shut him up.
As we discussed on your show when I was a guest, suggesting to your perfectly normal son that he might be a girl. At my all-boys school, they kept asking them over and over, raise your hand. Where are you in the scale of girl to boy, 0 through 5?
I did an editorial only like 3 weeks ago, and I used the word entrapment. I mean, it was about comparing what goes on in the schools with entrapment. I don't think anybody had ever put it that way. But entrapment in the law, I'm sure you know this better than I do, means suggesting someone into a crime.
Yep.
There's something they wouldn't have thought of to do anyway. I mean, I used the example of after 9/11, there were a number of cases where law enforcement basically entrapped people who were not really going to be terrorists. The one case I mentioned was the Liberty 7 guys in Liberty City, Miami, a poor section of Miami.
And Margot's. Further, accusing the fringe left of using psychological manipulation on children, he claims they subtly plant ideas about gender transition into young, impressionable minds. It starts innocently, a teacher or counselor repeatedly asking if a child feels different. The constant repetition turns suggestion into curiosity, and curiosity into confusion. Maher calls this what it is, manipulation wrapped in inclusivity, and he warns that this conditioning is reshaping children long before they're capable of understanding the consequences.
For people who say to me, you make fun of the left more than you used to. Yes, I do. First of all, I'm a comedian, and you're a lot funnier than you used to be. Not intentionally, but you are. Not just pregnant men and identity politics and oversensitivity and victim culture and cancel culture. There's lots of funny stuff. But if I ever needed a reason or a rationale for making the case that the left has changed, it would be this. The fact that they're now marching for the terrorists, really?
Right.
The people who see themselves as the most liberal people in the world, the social justice warriors, are standing with some of the most illiberal people in the world.
And here's where Maher's disbelief hits hardest. How can those who claim to defend freedom align with ideologies that destroy it? It's hypocrisy in its purest form. In many of the same societies these activists defend, women can't vote, can't drive, and can't live freely. Yet, Western liberals turn a blind eye, or worse, show solidarity. The irony, Maher says, is unbearable. LGBTQ activists supporting regimes that would never tolerate their existence. It's not progress, it's self-sabotage. And to Maher, it's dangerously naive.
This is one of the big problems with the left today, is they see race in everything. So, nothing ever, and again, as the guy who is trying to be the common sense person in the middle, just speak for the normies, everything, I think, to a lot of people strikes it the way it strikes me, as we start with one thing, this idea over here, and then we're all the way on the other side over here. In this issue, of course, as we were saying over there are people who are bigoted, and that's wrong. And of course, it's great that we got more impatient with racism in this country. That is the appropriate response I think we should have toward racism, being impatient with it. And then it goes all the way to, and no one who is a person of color can ever do anything wrong. That's how you get, we don't talk about China.
Then there's the conversation no one wants to have, race and crime. Maher says flat out, crime has no color. But modern culture has built a double standard. When white offenders act, it's headline news. When minorities do, the outrage is muted in the name of social justice. Maher sees that as moral rot, a justice system twisted by identity politics. Real equality, he says, means judging actions, not appearances. This selective outrage isn't progress. It's regression disguised as compassion.
Also, there's a couple of really funny editorials, essays in that book about time and the idea that the woke have this crazy idea that, people who lived 500 years ago really should have known better.
Yeah.
They have this magic moral time machine where they imagine what they would be doing in 1758, and it's always better than...
And it wouldn't have been using the term master bedroom.
No. That's another thing, yes.
Right?
And again, that's another point I'm always trying to make, is that the difference between old school liberals like me and the woke is things like that. People, I think, have this idea that wokeness is an extension of liberalism, and it very often is something that goes so far, it actually turns around and becomes the opposite.
Yes.
After decades of loyalty, Maher's patience with the far left has snapped. He says they've abandoned the core of liberalism, open debate, free thought, and tolerance. In their place, virtue signaling and moral arrogance. His biggest gripe: their obsession with rewriting history through a modern lens. They believe they'd have been better people if they'd lived centuries ago. Maher calls that delusion. The fringe left, he says, doesn't want truth or improvement. They want superiority. That, to him, is the death of honest liberalism.
Thing that you just mentioned about master bedroom or, blacklist, or these terms.
Rule of thumb.
JIP, I mean, reservation, I guess we're not supposed to say because insulting to the Indians. What are you supposed to say when you go to a restaurant?
There's something wrong with picnic, too. We're not allowed to say picnic anymore. I can't remember why.
We have we're supposed to eat here?
Right.
It's just, so again, wokeness seems a lot about canceling people, catching people at something, renaming stuff. Liberalism was at least about trying to fix things. It was about trying to lift people up, the people who had been forgotten, genuinely, and there are many of them, and downtrodden. These are the people we wanted to lift up. That's different than just pointing fingers and saying, I'm more pure than you are.
The woke mob has become a self-declared moral aristocracy, convinced they're purer and smarter than everyone else. They live to find offense, twisting words until meaning collapses. Maher calls this linguistic tyranny, where intent no longer matters and perception rules all. It's not about progress anymore, it's about punishment. People walk on eggshells, terrified of saying the wrong word. For Maher, this culture of fear isn't justice, it's control. And it's time someone said it.
Never want to get into a who hates racism the most contest with someone on the woke left. It's like, you know what? I hate it too. Okay? Shouldn't that be enough?
Except I also hate anti-white racism. Unlike them. That's the problem.
And things have changed. They also there's a essay in there about progressivophobia, which was Steven Pinker's great term that he coined, that it is a real problem on the left. They do not want to acknowledge progress, which is crazy because it is the product they're selling.
Yeah.
Because somehow in their mind, if you acknowledge progress, then you're not as pure as the other person who says, no, things are still horrible. Mm-hmm. Well, lots of things are still horrible, and things just objectively are way better. Can we just live in the year we're living?
Finally, Maher points to the progress the far left refuses to see. He's baffled that some act as if we're still stuck in the 1800s. Civil rights have advanced. Women's rights have expanded. Society isn't perfect, but it's better, undeniably better. Yet the fringe clings to outrage like oxygen. Maher's message is clear. Acknowledging progress isn't denial, it's honesty. True liberalism should celebrate growth and welcome debate, not silence it. He's not turning conservative, he's defending reason. And as long as the woke mob twists truth into madness, Bill Maher will keep calling them out, loud, clear, and unapologetic.